Hi everyone. I guess we can start. We're quite a few people now. Andreas, can you hear me? Great.
Yes.
So hello everyone. Thanks for coming today. We're very excited to be together, and we will be recording this event. So I would like to inform you all in case anyone is uncomfortable with that or doesn't want to appear in the recording. And you can also always reach us if you have any concerns. And you can find the chat in the bottom right corner where we will be posting some links and info and also some fun nonsense probably. Please feel free to use it. I'm Sinem, the events lead of AIxDesign, an independent organization and a community of geeky designers, creative techies, and curious minds who are exploring the intersection of design, AI, ML, and data. And before starting the event and introducing our workshop facilitator, we would like you to get familiar with Gather and also customize your look, which we also posted in the chat. And how you can do it is from the bottom left corner next to your video, please click on the little pen there and then pick change character option. And if you're saying, I feel like a poet today, please make your hair pink. If you're saying, I will let the computer make me look like a poet today, please make your hair purple. And if you're saying, I don't care about this weird color game, you can make your hair whatever color you want. I will also link in the chat. Post in the chat, I mean. I'm gonna give a little time for those who would like to customize the looks. I'm already saying a lot of purples. Great. So if you're done with customization, we would also like you to take a moment to celebrate being here together today. And I would like everybody who is having a great day to dance by pressing Z. Or those who are not having the best day, but if the day is getting better just now because of this event, throw some confetti for all of us by pressing F. Thanks. It looks like festive, no? I will also post in the chat how to use these comments. And you will also notice that you will be able to interact, talk, and see each other when you walk towards someone, if your cameras and microphones are on, of course, or if you're in the same space. And today we will be hosting Andreas Refsgaard for the workshop, Naive Poetry Collaborations, a workshop on AI-generated poetry and text making, as part of our AI Playground program led by Ambika, aka Computational Mama. Hello, Andreas and Ambika. Hi.
Hey.
I think Ambika is also here. Can you hear us, Ambika? Okay, muted. So I think he's gonna say hi later. Andreas, I would like to introduce Andreas a little, if you don't know him already. Andreas Refsgaard is an artist and creative coder working in the field between art and interaction design. He uses algorithms, coding, and machine learning to explore the creative potentials of emerging digital technologies. And you can see Andreas' work on andreasrefsgaard.dk. I will be sending in the chat the link. And also, I will be also sending the link of our dear program lead Ambika's work, if you would like to check that as well. This workshop is actually the 5th event of our AI Playground program led by Ambika and funded by Stimulating Phone's creative industry. And it is part of the text team among 4 main teams we have been having: image, moving image, music, sound, body poses, and text words. Under each team, we're hosting one behind-the-scenes artist talk and one workshop, like today's. And you can follow our social channels and have an eye on our Eventbrite page for other talks and workshops that we will be having as part of the program, and also our other programs this year. I'm again leaving some links in the chat where you can find us and all the upcoming events. Also, Led by the content lead of our program, Caterina Rodriguez, we will make the explorations and learnings of each AI Playground topic accessible to the wider community with a public guide. And this guide will contain an introduction to each discipline, inspiration projects, and creative suggestions for how the viewer can expand the subject further. And the workshop participants, like today, will have a chance to join a Slack channel and can also provide suggestions on what they would like to see in the guide. Additionally, there will be an online graduation show we are planning later in the year where all the workshop participants will have the chance to display the work they develop in these workshops. And more details will be announced on the respective Slack channels, and you will be receiving a mail on how to join the Slack channel shortly after the workshop. Please do not hesitate to ping me privately if you have any problems or if you cannot join the Slack channel. So I will be sending a link on how to join the Slack here as well. Just join there and ping us. Now I would like to leave the stage finally to Andreas for this exciting workshop. Hello again, Andreas.
Hi. Yeah, thanks so much for the introduction, and thanks for everybody for tuning in from so many different places. I'm in Copenhagen right now. It's really hot, so I hope there's not a lot of background noise. I have my window open. And what we're gonna do today, I'll begin by giving an introduction about my work with poetry and AI. And then I will give you some exercises where we will together try to explore how to make poetry using GPT-3. And then you'll have a bit of time to do something on your own. And then finally, we will maybe see what some of you have made and have a bit of a final discussion. And while I kind of present and also while I introduce different topics and techniques, then feel free to write in the chat and ask questions. When I'm doing my initial presentation, I can't actually see the chat, but I'll try to take all the questions maybe afterwards. But when I do the exercises, I can see the chat just fine. Okay, so I think I will just get started and I will share my screen. So I was already introduced. But I'm Andreas, and I do a lot of stuff around coding and machine learning. And today we'll focus on some of the things that I find interesting around poetry. So a project that I did some years ago was this project called Poems About Things. And that's a project that tries to generate poetry from everyday objects that are around us. The way it works is that it uses your mobile phone, and then there's a built-in machine learning model that tries to guess what it sees through the mobile phone camera. So it can detect certain things like a espresso cup or a banana, and then that word gets sent to Google Suggest API, which then in return sends some sentences inspired by the detected object. So it works the same way as if you try to search for something on Google, and Google tries to kind of auto guess what it is you're searching for. So banana, all of a sudden a banana detected can become this weird poem about bananas. Or laptops. This laptop was brought to you by capitalism, apparently. Or how about an organ? Organ can kind of mean different things. So the poem looks at different parts of organs. One example of a poem that was generated using this that I really like, I think we'll stop here at the toilet seat, is this poem. This is not me, it's a student I had at the Design Academy in Eindhoven, and I have his permission to use this image, very beautiful image, where this student wanted to kind of figure out what kind of poems would be generated if he pointed the camera lens towards his own body. And the machine learning model that I was using, the vision model, was trained to recognize 1,000 different categories. But none of those categories were human beings nor were they parts of human bodies. So it was mainly trained on everyday objects and animals and plants. And therefore, it had no category for person or for chest or for upper body. So it tried to guess, but it guessed in a kind of incorrect way, but an interesting poetic way. It guessed that this was a fur coat. And then the poem generated using Google Suggest then reads, is my fur coat real? Is my fur coat worth anything? Is my fur coat mink? Is my coat fur? Why is my fur coat shedding? So this project was some years ago. You can still try it out. Actually, I have a link on the workshop page that I'll share in 5 minutes, and also a link on my website. But these techniques, both for describing what is in an image, but also for generating text, these techniques and machine learning models are really becoming better and better and better. So now I'm making something, in lack of a better name, I'm making something that I call better poems about things, where I use a more up-to-date model that can detect what is in an image, and instead of just giving you one category, it tries to describe an image in a sentence. And then I use GPT-3, which we'll also look at in this workshop, to then generate a poem based on what is detected in the image. So here are some examples. Here's one where I was on a train ride and I had this kind of specific t-shirt on, and then the title, which is what the model, the image model thinks it sees, is a man sits holding up his fingers and has a t-shirt with a gorilla. So that kind of becomes the title of the poem, and then GPT-3 generates a poem based on that title. A man sits holding up his fingers and has a t-shirt with a gorilla. He looks like he's trying to say something, but I don't know what it is. Maybe he's telling us to stop and take a look at the world around us. Or maybe he's trying to say that we're all a little bit like animals, each with our own unique strength and power, but also with a softer side. Whatever the message, I hope we can all learn something from this man and his gorilla shirt. So, and every time you do it, it generates a new, unique poem. So I also tried a man looking confused while holding up a shirt, which I think is true. I'm also right now trying it out on kind of different sceneries. So here's a close-up of an excavator digging some dirt. The excavator digs into the earth, shoveling the dirt with all its might. The machine is relentless in its own work, toiling day and night. The excavator is a symbol of progress. It represents the human desire to build, to take what is raw and make it into something new, but sometimes in the process we destroy. The excavator digs and digs, uncovering hidden things. Sometimes we find what we're looking for, and sometimes we find what we wish we hadn't. And I actually want to try to demo this online right now. So live demos can always go wrong, but we'll try. So I'm gonna load up this poems about things. It's the new poems about things, and I want to kind of see if I can make it do something around the stuff in my bedroom. So I have I just got a little daughter, so she has some stuffed animals for animals, and I also have a guitar. So let's see what kind of poems comes out of this. I actually have no idea. Let's see. Okay. So it looks like a person holding an acoustic guitar in front of the camera. So that part is real. It didn't really pick up the teddy. Let's try. Let's just try again. I really wanted to do something with this. Maybe that is the... Oops. Okay, looks like a man is holding a stuffed rabbit on his shoulder while sitting with an acoustic guitar. Okay, I'm just going to read this out loud. I'm holding my stuffed rabbit on my shoulder while I sit with my acoustic guitar. I'm thinking of you and how we used to be so close. Now you're gone and I'm all alone. I miss you so much, and I just can't help but wonder why you had to go. I know you're in a better place, but I still can't help but feel so lost and alone. I'll never forget you. My stuffed rabbit and I will always remember the times we shared together. Okay, so this project is very much work in progress. So I'm not done with it at all, and I actually want you to help me a bit with it. It'll be one of the exercises where we'll try to see how we can generate maybe even better poems from images. So yeah, I hope you're up for that, and up for me kind of using you a bit in my own weird artistic research. Okay. So one thing is maybe generating poems, but what if you try to generate longer text? And that is what this next project is about. It's called Books by AI. And someone has their microphone on in the background, so if you're not actively talking, then it would be nice if you would mute the microphone. But Books by AI is an online bookstore which tries to sell science fiction novels that are generated by AI. So if you're tired of books written by human authors, then you can try Books by AI. And all the books are science fiction books. So we trained a text model on existing science fiction books and also on existing covers of science fiction books. And after the training, we then generated a bunch of new books and had them for sale as printed copies. So here's one, The Imperfect and the Disaster by Bear East Wolf. So everything is generated, the titles, the authors, the descriptions, the content of the books, but also the covers. And we used progressive growing of GANs for the covers, which is kind of early version of style GAN. And then we used something called char RNN, which is now very, very outdated. That's something similar to what GPT can do, but not as well. And if someone is turning on their mic, then please turn it off again. So the books aren't that great, to be honest. They neither the covers nor the content of the books is super good. This is a project made in 2018 and 2019. So how do you sell stuff that's not super nice? Well, we actually generated a whole army of people that didn't exist and trained a new text generating algorithm on positive reviews of other books. So yeah, and you can actually, maybe we should just go to the website. So Books by AI, where you can see some of the books for sale. And then you can also see some of the reviews. And I really like this review by Editor Locker, who says, I really enjoyed this book. It's Knudung. And one of the reasons why Editor Locker made this review, Knudung, is that it's also, of course, generated, and it's generated using char RNN. And char RNN learns character by character, like a single letter by single letter. And in the beginning, it just writes complete nonsense. And we stopped it before it became like really, really good. So it still makes these weird mistakes, like Knudung is not a word that actually exists, but I think it's a nice description of this book, because it's not a good book at all. It's also not an uninteresting book. It's a Knudung book. And then you can buy them, if you feel like it, from Amazon.com. And now real people are actually buying the books and reviewing them. So it's a kind of a weird circle, a weird loop where the snake is kind of biting itself. So some people really like the book, give it 5 stars. Some people don't really like the book, give it 1 star. Not a lot of people think it's a mediocre book, which I think is also kind of fair, kind of makes sense. Yeah. So, in a way, like, you could argue that what we're producing here is spam, or we're making something fake that doesn't, we're trying to trick people. And in a way, that's also what this next project is about. And it's a project called Behind the Paywall. It was initially pitched for a festival in Belgium called Kick Festival, where they had this theme of manipulations. Festival that year got cancelled due to COVID, but the idea stuck with me, so I ended up doing it either way. But yeah, it was made as part of this thing on manipulations, and the idea was to kind of see if you could somehow go behind a paywall. So a lot of the times when people like myself, when we're kind of scrolling the internet and looking for articles or on social media, then there's links to articles, but if you're not a subscriber, you can't really see the main content of the article. You can only see the headline, and then your mind kind of makes up its own idea about what might be the rest of the story, but you actually don't know. It's hidden behind the paywall. So what would happen if algorithms would generate the rest of the story? Because you have some text that you can see, you have the headline, maybe have a few paragraphs. What happens if you take that text and feed it into a algorithm that can then continue your text? So that's what we did, me and an American programmer and artist, Matt Visco. And we trained GPT-2, we fine-tuned GPT-2 on New York Times articles. And then it's, to some extent, able to continue the texts. Of course, they're fully fictional, so whatever it writes it's wrong. It's just something it makes up, but it's also wrong in a quite specific way. It's biased in a specific way, besides being fictional. And that's because we trained it on a data set of New York Times articles from 2016. So it actually thought that Joe Biden was still vice president. It had no idea around Corona, and it also had lots of other kind of weird systematic mistakes on top of it being not real at all. And if you're interested in it, I have a blog post about the project, also some more thoughts around how we did it. It was a browser extension, but it recently broke because New York Times changed their layout of the site. But we have a link to it if you potentially you can fix it and kind of make a new version of it. And another project also on text and also somewhat on kind of this fake text or kind of manipulative text in a way is a project that I recently showed at Sonar Festival in Belgium, and it's called Phase 2 Wikipedia. So the idea is that anyone can sit in front of a computer, put in their name, take a picture of themselves, and then also write what they're famous for, and then it will generate a fictional Wikipedia article based on that information. And here is a short screen recording where I'm trying it out. So my name is Andreas Refsgaard, and what if I was famous for not sleeping at all since I became a dad? I recently became a dad, so I don't sleep that much, but what if I was super famous for that? So then it tries to estimate certain things based on my facial expression, and then a Wikipedia article is generated. I'll just leave it there so you can have a glimpse at some of it. And in a way, it's kind of it seems convincing, but if you read closely and if you know some things about Denmark, then you can kind of tell that it's fake. And one of the obvious tells, maybe to me at least, is that it says just above where I highlighted the text that I was featured in the Danish news program 60 Minutes. And 60 Minutes is not a news program in Danish. It's a news program, but I think it's US based, so it doesn't exist in Denmark. And I think it's kind of important as artists, but also just as designers, and maybe all of us or everybody, all human beings, to be able to kind of become critical at text, because right now it's really easy to generate text that looks convincing, but also to become good at looking for these weird small mistakes that are kind of tell us that this text is not correct. And typically a lot of these models, GPT-2 and 3, they're very Western centric, so they are trained on mainly English text. A lot of it is US based. So they kind of steer everything towards a US or at least English speaking logic, and also all the references are from there. Where, for instance, I'm from Denmark. That's part of the West, you could argue, but there is no Danish news program such as 60 Minutes. So I'm super interested in like these small mistakes and how can you kind of tell whether text is generated or real. Okay. I have one more project, but I think I'll actually skip that for now. And then I think we should go to the workshop page. So I made a workshop page for this this event, and I'm gonna share it in the chat. And then please let me know in the chat if you can access this workshop page, because that is where we're gonna spend the rest of today, doing some small exercises and looking at stuff. The links from this page. So I shared it now in the chat. Can people just maybe do a thumbs up if you can access it? Yeah,
we can have that.
Okay, good. So on this page, we have some different assignments that I'm gonna do with you, and that I would really encourage you to do. And I hope they will be really fun. I try to make it so you can kind of be a bit creative on your own. But first of all, I would like you to make a user with OpenAI so you can access GPT-3, which is this text-based model that can generate text, which we are going to use today. So you should try to make a user with OpenAI and make sure you can log in. And once you're logged in, then it's nice if you go to the playground, which looks like this. So once you're logged in, you can try to go to the playground, and then you should be all set. And while some of you maybe already have a user, some of you are making a user now, then I can tell a bit about GPT-3. So GPT-3 is made by OpenAI, and it's not an open source tool. GPT-2 was open source, but GPT-3 is not open source. That also means that it's a commercial project where you pay every time you interact with it. However, you get some free credits when you sign up, and those free credits get you quite far if you're just kind of poking around. OpenAI's API is not available in your country. What country is that, Ahmad? I'm really sorry about that. Egypt. Okay. I'm really sorry about that. I can see maybe if I can find. Let me just hear how many people are having that error. I'm really sorry. I didn't foresee that. Are other people having that same error as Ahmed is having? Yeah, so Pablo suggested you could, in theory, use a VPN. So that is a good idea. If you can do that, that would be great. Otherwise, in the break, I'll give you some links to some alternatives, some open source alternatives to GPT-3. So I think you can still get quite a lot out of just following along. But for now, I think we will to stay on track with the time. I think we will get further. Let me know if anyone else is having issues making an account. Okay, so now that you have your account, then I hope, and you are logged in. The links I'll do those in a second after we start this assignment. Then the first assignment will be to try to order a text. So what I would like you to do is to go to this link, go to the OpenAI playground, and then try to describe in a single sentence what kind of text you would like, and then have GPT-3 write that text for you. And when you do that, make sure you have no line breaks or no concluding spaces in your prompt, as that often confuses GPT-3. And then it would be fun if you maybe try it out with different genres of text, maybe articles, stories, recipes, poems, etc. And I made some examples for you. They are maybe, I don't know, maybe they are a bit boring, but they kind of show you the idea. So let me try to just take this and show you how it kind of works. And you're free to just do this as well on your own, maybe in another tab. But once you're inside the playground, for now, we're not going to mess with any of the settings. We can maybe talk about some of the settings later on, but for now, we're just going to try to generate some text. So what you can do in these newer versions of GPT-3, you couldn't actually do it in the beginning, but now you can. You can simply instruct GPT-3 to make it produce a text that you like. So I would like an outline for an essay about the role of computers in poetry. That's a bit specific, but let's try to hit submit. So at least here it tries to kind of give me an outline for an essay I might want to write about the roles of computers in poetry. And an essay is, or an outline is one type of text. Let's try something else. Let's try to see. I'm sorry that I do like weird stuff. I really try to kind of push it and to see what it can do and what it can't do. What if I wanted to write a fairy tale about a jar of honey and a Nintendo Wii controller? So that's not a things you see in a typical fairy tale, at least together. But let's try it out. So I'm gonna go back. I'm gonna again do it on the first line and then hit submit. So this is a bit of a short fairy tale, but nonetheless it's a fairy tale where once upon a time there was a jar of honey and a Nintendo Wii controller, and then they did this and that and blah 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 blah. So when you do these things, it's kind of important that you don't have empty line breaks or empty spaces, because if you have empty spaces, I'm just going to try it out now and hit submit, then it typically gives you this warning that it can cause worse performance, and also sometimes doesn't want to spit anything out if you have like a lot of line breaks or empty spaces. So maybe you're already doing it, but what I would like you to do is just try out a bunch of different weird stuff. Like make it do some poems, make it do some lists of stuff, make it write some like news articles or like a scientific story, make it do tagline suggestions for something, and then try to save some of your best texts in this Google Doc. And then we can kind of see what each other are making, and maybe we can also try to discuss like some things that work really well, but also maybe some stuff that didn't work as well. So that's kind of the assignment now. And I think, let's just see in terms of time, for the next 5 minutes or so, let's try to do that in the next 5-6 minutes. Simply describe what kind of text you want and try a couple of times. And also if you try something and it didn't really do what you wanted it to do, then a good tip is to just hit this regenerate button a couple of times. So for instance, here I'm trying to make it do something really weird, like write a tagline suggestion for a shop that sells both smoked salmon and leather boots. That's a really weird shop. I'm gonna hit submit. And then it gives me these suggestions for tagline results, tagline suggestions. I kind of like some of them. Smoked salmon and leather boots, the perfect combination for every occasion. Kind of nice. But if I don't like them, then I can always hit regenerate. And that means that I take the same prompt. So that's the text up here. and then it will do it one more time. Yeah. Okay, so try to do that. Try to do this assignment 1 for the next 5 or 6 minutes, and then in the meantime I will find some of the examples for these open source alternatives to GPT-3, which don't work as well but are free and that you can maybe play around with. Yeah, especially for Agma. And also the link for the Notion is here. There you go. Any questions relating to this assignment? Then just feel free to write them in the chat. Yeah. And then maybe one more thing I need to say in terms of this assignment, and also in terms of using GPT-3. So GPT-3 is trained on text from the internet. It's trained on the like a snapshot of Wikipedia at some point, also a lot of books, but also lots of text just from links from Reddit and all other sources from the internet. So it can actually produce text that can be pretty offensive. It can be quite racist at times. It can be sexist. It can be nasty text at times. OpenAI is trying a lot to filter those results out, but they can occur. So like be a bit aware if you try to make it something that is maybe a bit controversial, then like be aware that it can produce something that's a bit offensive. And then also maybe do not share stuff that's really, really offensive to the rest of our group, either in the chat or in this Google Doc. Yeah, but just a warning, it can produce stuff that is pretty toxic because it's trained on the internet, and the internet is pretty toxic. Okay, so Pablo asks a question. Part of the prompt gets highlighted in green and part is not highlighted in green. So generally speaking, when you write something, then what you write, which is your prompt, is not in green, but what the GPT-3 model outputs is in green. So let me just try again. Like write a recipe for a pizza with pineapple. That's my prompt, and then I'll hit submit. So my prompt will typically be in white, and then what it spits out is in green. Yeah. And in terms of sharing your results, then I would encourage you to maybe share them. Yeah, just I don't know. Let's see if people are already doing them. Yeah, share them in the Google Doc. That makes it a bit more easy. Also for me to see if anyone has questions. So let's save the questions for the chat, and then save the chat for the questions, and then all the beautiful or weird or whatever poems you generate, put them in the Google Doc. And the Google Doc is at the very bottom down here under assignment.
I also sent a link that those are for screenshots to be shared on our socials, on our Instagram. So you can do that after the workshop as well. So if you would like if you would like to share anything with us, we can share it on our socials. But yeah, like Andreas shared a doc link for the poems here.
Okay, so do this exercise a couple more minutes, and then I promise to now spend the last few minutes finding some links for open source alternatives to GPT-3. Okay, I think we should get back. And I actually, this is a question for the organizers. Can the participants can they unmute and speak out loud if they want to?
Yes, you can. Whoever wants to, they can let me know. I'll spotlight them.
Okay, perfect. So my question is now: does anyone want to share the whatever text that they made GPT-3 generate and talk a bit about it, and also talk about their thoughts and their response to it, what they thought of it? So maybe just say in the chat that you would like to present whatever you generated, and then we can all look at it. And in the meantime, I'll just kind of look at some of them. So there's some haiku. There's something about making a drawing of a fox. So then, because this is text-based, then it becomes an instruction for drawing of a fox in a way. So GPT-3 cannot generate images. However, that's something DALL-E can do. We can also talk about DALL-E if people want. But yeah, I don't know. So does anyone want to share something that they made? If not, then maybe I can actually maybe I'll try to ask someone, because I thought something was quite interesting. So here's someone who tried to make it generate a script, make it generate code in C++, which is this programming language, to generate poetry. Can I ask who did that? Me? Okay. So can I'm sorry if I mispronounced. Kalian be highlighted potentially?
Done.
Okay. Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I know. I was trying to find different ways of suppose, different written languages or semantics in a sense. And I know there's some sort of AI that actually is already in production. I don't know who's it by, but it's to help developers generate code as well. So I was interested in see, what it would make of generating C++ scripts with poetry or whatnot, and it came out pretty good in the end. So
can you maybe just for those who maybe are not programmers or maybe are not familiar with C++, can you maybe like actually kind of say what it ended up doing?
So it ended up making, I'm not too sure, I'm not really experienced C++, but I know it's importing some dependencies at the top for the output stream. So it's able to, so if you see C out there at the very bottom, that's pretty much writing it to the console. And then there's looks like a list of strings, which are named nouns, verbs, and adjectives, which is pretty cool, I thought. And then it's printing out each one sequentially. So down at the bottom, or not sequentially, it's like adjective, the adjective. And so it goes to the adjective, the string name adjective, and it's blue. And then noun one is butterfly, and then verb one, and it's kind of printing it out with spaces in between. So it's pretty cool.
So, okay, so how would this poem read? So it would read the blue. Yeah, can you read it? Yeah.
Yeah, I'll try. The blue butterfly eats green, and it's like a end of line, and then there's another line. The pink flower likes the hate. Is that right? Maybe I'm wrong. Likes the hate boy. And there's another one, and then there's I think you ran out of characters after that. So
fair enough. Okay. So in terms of very cool. Thanks so much for sharing. I kind of like this in a way. It's like really, like a few years ago, you would think like, oh, that's really weird. Like with natural language instructing a computer to write code that then writes like a poem, but here we are. So in terms of like running out of characters, then you can in the playground you can adjust this setting. So that's an important setting for all of you to know. The maximum length. So the maximum length is just how many characters it will maximally. Oh, sorry, not characters, tokens. It will maximally output. And another kind of important slider also to know is this temperature slider. So the lower the temperature you give it, the fewer chances it takes. It becomes, it plays more safe, and it, like if you set the temperature at 0, it will always do the same thing. Whereas if you set it high, it will take more chances, be more kind of like more random, but more surprising, but also sometimes a bit less coherent. So that's a bit of a trade-off in terms of what you're aiming to do. So Ahmed, you made a comment which is correct, that my links right now in terms of the alternatives to GPT-3 only generates a sentence, a single sentence, and that's right. I will, next time we do an exercise, I will try to find, I'm pretty sure I can find some Google Colab links that actually allow you to generate multiple sentences. Right now, those were the ones I could just find where you could quickly try it out. But there are ways of running them where you can make it output a lot of text, as much text as you want.
Okay, thank you, Andreas. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Okay. Anyone else wanna share something they did? Okay. So Chris Mailo, do you wanna say a bit about some of the things you did?
Yeah, of course.
Can you speak a bit louder? You're not that loud. Yeah.
Just give me a minute. I'll spotlight them.
Okay.
Can you just ping me in the chat so I know who you are? Now can you speak?
Okay.
Yeah.
This has been a lot of fun. So the haiku, I wrote it just because I think like cooking is such a big part of my life, and I feel like there's not enough like films or books or poems about it because I think it's so special. So I just was wondering if it create a poem about it. I think some of the format's wrong just because I copied it elsewhere and then copied back. And then I then prompted with write a secret, but then it added the message bit by itself, and I don't know, I just found it funny. And then the next one is just unlike my landlord.
Okay.
And I need to write him an email later today. So I was wondering if you had any ideas.
So you're actually gonna write your landlord later today?
Yeah, I need to write him an email. So yeah.
Oh, interesting. What do you think of this suggestion?
It's quite interesting actually because that's probably the weirder one, because when I actually write an email to my landlord about what I actually have to write him about, it was just like such a good template. Like I could literally use that for my email later. But this one, like after refreshing a couple times and after adding the whole breakup prompt, it was just funnier. I don't know.
Yeah, definitely. It is a breakup text. Literally, it's I'm breaking up with you, and those subtle changes that we make in the prompts, they have like a huge importance. So another thing you could try, if you want an AI generated email to your landlord, is also to right now it's like a breakup text to my landlord. What if it was a breakup text in the style of something? Like maybe you have a favorite poet. Like what if, I don't know, Shakespeare did it? What if an artist, like a pop song, like in a rap way? Like what if Nicki Minaj wrote a breakup thing? So you can like try to add like extra things to kind of point it in specific ways. That would be fun.
That's cool.
Thanks so much for sharing. I think we are going to maybe, unless someone else wants to share something, then now is your chance. Maybe we can also, anyone else wants to share something? I'm gonna look at these later on. Okay, so here we actually have something in the style of Emily Dickinson and Ursula Le Guin. Okay, so B-Shapes. B-Shapes wants to be highlighted.
Yeah, I shared an image. It's close to the bottom of the Google Doc, but I told OpenAI to write a sketch for processing.js, and it wrote.
Okay.
You see it now?
Yeah. Wow. Okay. So your prompt just write a sketch for processing.js, and then you just pasted it in.
Yeah. I screenshotted it and then pasted it in here, but it just generated that totally randomly. So
Pretty cool.
That's fun. It would be fun to see if you can so right now that looks like a face, and it's not. It looks like a static sketch from what I understand of processing. Like, could you make it? Like, could you be more specific? Could you say, I want some generative artwork with triangles, or I want like a noisy 2D texture thing, or I want a face where the mouse position controls where the eyes look, or like it would be fun to see if you could kind of how far can you push this idea of using this for processing.
Yeah, that would be sweet.
Cool, very nice. Okay, I think thanks so much for sharing, and sorry if I was trying to push you to share. I didn't mean to, but it's a lot more fun, at least for me, hopefully also for you, when it's not only me talking. So we will go back to the next assignment, and this is where you are actually helping me out because.
Oh, sorry.
No problem. No problem. Okay, so now you're gonna help me out because I have this unfinished project of better poems about things, whatever that means, and I'm actually gonna like show you the building blocks, and then maybe together we can generate some poems that are better than the ones that I've created so far, and then I will take all the credit for it and make it my art piece, and you all help me. I hope you're okay with that. At least, if not, then yeah, or I hope you're okay with it. So now we're gonna make some poems about things. So what I would like you to do is to find a few different images on your computer or just find them online. They can actually be about whatever you want. It doesn't really matter. Like if you have something super, super abstract, maybe it won't work, but feel free to use whatever you want. It can be people, places, whatever. Then I would like you to go to this URL, which is a demo of a model called Blip. And what Blip can actually do a lot of different things. But what I'm using it for in this case, and what you're going to use it for, is just to describe an image in a single sentence. So Blip is here when you open it, and just leave the settings as they are. You can actually also do some interesting stuff around asking questions to an image with Blip, but we're not going to do that right now. So just leave it as it is. And then you drop an image here. So you upload an image. So I can just maybe demo it real quick. So I have, let's see, some images that I might have. So I have an image of some zebras here. Oh, it doesn't want to do that. Maybe I can just drop them. 1 second. So I have some zebras here, and then I just leave the settings as they are, and I hit submit. And then the caption becomes 3 zebras drinking water near a grassy plain. That's not too bad. Actually, this is also, it has some randomness to it, so every time you click, you generate a new caption, a new output. But for me, I think this is pretty accurate. This is fine. So that was step 1. I found some images. Step 2, I go here, upload one of my images, and then get a descriptive image caption. Then with that caption, I don't want the words caption. I just want like the actual text about the image. So I'm going to copy that. And then the next thing is that I go to my playground with GPT-3, and then I use the image caption to generate a poem based on the image. So let me go here. And then my prompt instruction, it can be super, super simple. So it could be write a poem about, and then I'm just going to input that. So write a poem about. And then I'm going to paste my caption, which is these 3 zebras drinking water near a grassy plain. And then I'll hit submit. So right now I get a poem, which is about these 3 zebras that came out of the image. So, but I'm not really, and that's also why I need your help. I don't love all the poems right now. I think some of them are a bit boring. Maybe this one is a bit boring. It's like very straightforward. It's a bit like if you have food that's not really like spiced, I would like it to be more spicy. Like I would like a more interesting poem. So what I would maybe also encourage you to do is to kind of steer the poem in a certain direction. Like what if you put in different adjectives that describe the poem? Like what if you say, I want a really funny poem, I want a super melancholic poem, I want a intellectual poem, I want what, instead of just writing poem, then like try to use some more words to describe what it is you want. Similar to what we had earlier on with, I forgot the name, but with the person who made this breakup text to the landlord. So breakup text, or breakup letter or whatever it was more interesting than the email. It really changed the output. So you can also like try to add like maybe what happens if it's in the style of a certain poet or something to your instructions, and that would simply be like again, if I have this stuff about poems, to write a really, what if it's a really sad poem, or what if it's like a poem in the style of, and then whatever poet, or maybe you can try to like do it with like a genre of poems or whatever. You can maybe, it also doesn't have to be poems. It could be something else, but yeah, it's kind of up to you. So I hope you're up for this weird little thing about like making some poems and making like make some better, you want better poems about things. Here are the steps. And then I would like if you want to save your best poem and image, and it's actually in the same Google Doc. So just like go all the way below. I know it becomes a bit of a messy document. Hope you're okay with that. And then save your best poem and image. And Beck said that the descriptors help. So when I added the word depressing before poem, it was more interesting. So yeah, I'm kind of interested in like these descriptors or these styles, like how do we make these poems about things kind of more interesting than what it is right now. I hope you're up for that, for helping me out. That's the assignment now, and I think the next 10 minutes. And in the meantime, I'll try, Ahmad, to see if I can find some examples where you can run alternatives to GPT-3, which aren't as good, I must say, but where you can make them output more text. So I'll try to do that. But before, I want to know if there's any questions relating to this little assignment 2.
I think I have access to the website, and I'll try it. For me, I don't have any question now. Just I need to try it.
Okay. Cool. Does that mean? Sorry. Once again, does that mean you have access to what? To GPT-3 or to something else?
Yeah. I think this is a website called Hugging Face, right? Yeah. So it's accessible here in Egypt. It's
perfect. Yeah, cool. Okay, but I'll still try to find some alternatives for GPT-3 to you where you can output more text, because I know that the stuff I sent you initially.
Yeah, honestly, I think the alternative will be either Google Colab or I use a PPN.
Okay, cool.
Right.
I'll see if I can find some good Google Colab, but then VPN for sure is also a way to
Yeah. Thanks, Andreas.
Cool.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. So let's do this exercise assignment 2 for the next, I think, 7-8 minutes, maybe 10 minutes. Let's see, and save your best poem plus image all the way below into the Google Doc. And let me know if anyone has any questions in the chat, and I'll try to answer as soon as I can. I keep an eye on the chat. Okay, so I think we should soon get started with looking at some of the poems, and if anyone would like to share and maybe read one of them out loud, then put your name in the chat and you can get highlighted. And while you do that, then Julia asks whether the Notion doc will be available after the workshop. Yes, it will. So I will keep this Notion page up. I promise at least the all of this year, and unless Notion starts like charging me a lot, I'll keep it up forever. But at least this year, I promise. You can also in Notion, you can actually export it as a PDF if you want to. But you can also just yeah, I promise to keep it up all of 2022. So yeah, then I had some chats with Ahmad about some of these alternatives to GPT-3. So there are open source alternatives that are free, which is really cool, where they try to kind of replicate GPT-2 and GPT-3 and make them big. It started with alternatives to GPT-2 and now also to GPT-3. One thing to note when you're trying them out is that they don't have the same way of like handling instructions. So typically you can't tell them to write something and just expect them to do that. The way they work is that they continue text. So one example is, let's say you want to have a fairy tale around something, then you actually need to write the beginning of the fairy tale, typically. Whereas with GPT-3, you could just tell it to write a fairy tale about this or that. But with GPT-Neo or with GPT-J, they typically don't work that well with instructions. At least that's my experience. Ahmed, do you have?
No, I think I need to spend some time with Google Colab links, because I used to use VQGAN and Clip together, like writing a text and the text generate an image. But this is my first time to work with some text to generate more text. So I need to spend more time in Google Colab.
Sure. Cool. Yeah.
Anyway, thank you, Andreas. Thank you.
Yeah, of course. And I'm sorry, I didn't know. Yeah. Okay.
No. Yeah. We can blame anyone. Yeah? Not you.
Yeah. Okay. So what I would like now is if anyone wants to maybe present their little poem, read it out loud, then that would be really fun. So just write in the chat if you feel like maybe being highlighted and want to present what it is you've been doing. And if not, maybe I just pick someone, but it's more fun if you volunteer. Okay, so Bex. If Bex can be highlighted, and Bex maybe also tell me which poem it is.
Highlighted.
Yeah, which poem is it? Bex. It says Bex. It needs permission. Wild Bex is maybe. It's rainbow hamster with a shield. Okay, is it like in the top or bottom? This one. Yes. Okay, I can maybe, while Bex is connecting, I can read it out loud. Write a heroic poem about a cute little hamster wearing a sword and a shield on top of a tree. This is the story of a little hamster who found a sword and shield one day. He put them on and climbed up high into a tree to fight and play. He fought imaginary foes and he won great battles in his mind. The sword and shield became his friends and he was happy up in the tree, but eventually he had to come down and return to his home on the ground. He left his sword and shield behind, but they'll always stay in his heart. So, Bex, are you still having issues connecting? Is that right?
This is Bex. I'm talking from B Shaves because B Shaves is next to me.
Cool. Yeah.
But yeah, I fed it a picture of a drawing I did, and it described it as this cute little hamster wearing a sword and shield on the top of a tree. And then I just thought the poem that it wrote was very adorable and fun to share.
And interesting, did it say cute? Like the image model outputted cute?
The image
hamster?
model described it as a cute little hamster. Yeah.
Interesting. Okay, nice. Wow. Did you try it? Did you try it several times? Was this just the first one you tried?
This was the first one, and I just really liked it. And I think I had mentioned earlier in the chat, if you include a description word before the word poem, I think it outputs something more interesting. So I put in the word heroic.
Yeah. This is perfect. Cool. Wow. Interesting. I'm still amazed by this cute. I thought that that model would be more like kind of straightforward, or would not, like, in a way it's a value judgment that something is cute or not cute, but it's also kind of descriptive in this case. So yeah, no, that's fun. Cool. Anyone else wanna share something?
I wanna go if no one else does. I think it's the very last one. Can you go to the very last? I think it's the very last one. Yeah, great. I can read it out loud. So this was the image, and it went: a blue face mask laying on the ground is all I see. All around me is this beautiful blue, and I can't help but feel a little bit of love for this inanimate object that has become my world for the moment, and I can't help but wonder if someone out there is looking at me with the same love and wonder that I am feeling for this blue face mask laying on the ground.
Wow.
I enjoyed it.
Can I? Why did you choose a romantic poem?
I don't know. It really felt like a lonely mask on the ground. So I wondered if it would go romantic. Then I suddenly fell in love with the mask, I guess, through the poem.
Cool. I love that. Wow. So yeah, that's really nice. Okay. Any last person wanna share something? If not, then we'll quickly just look at some of them. Oh, the horror poem about the seagull. Interesting.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Hello. I was trying to find like a funny image, like the seagulls that are trying to steal the food. It's always funny.
Yeah.
And I upload 2 examples. Like if you go in the first one, there's no the horror before the poem, and the meaning is completely different, or the poem is changing. Like the second one is really straightforward and like makes you feel the attack.
It's like, yeah, I love this part. Like, it's a vicious cycle. Like, it's a never ending. like this person just gets attacked, and his food is stolen like every day by this seagull. Yeah. Okay. That's fun. Cool. Yeah. Very, very nice. So maybe the thing is, like, I'm wondering, my own little. Right, Ahmed, yeah. Thanks for joining.
Funny thing is that the blip didn't recognize the image, like that sentence from the first time. I had to regenerate like 10 times in order to recognize the attacking of the attack of the seagull.
Ah, right. Okay. Yeah. So that's maybe like you could say it's an inaccuracy of the image model. So blip, this model that I recommended, that's just a model that's very easy to use, and you can kind of use it for free. But you could, I think, lots of other big companies, they offer these types of models. So maybe swapping in for an even better model would also give it some.
Or maybe like because on the first try, it said like a man holding a bird. And as I regenerate again and again, maybe the model starts to recognize the whole thing. And
Sorry, whom did you want me to highlight?
Who did you want to highlight?
Oh,
Sinem, you wanted me to highlight someone?
Anastasios no, who am I saying your name? Sorry.
Yeah.
Anastasios is
Done
not
it.
highlighted. Sorry.
Done.
Sorry for that.
yeah.
No, it's okay.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you were just cut off, but
Yeah, and I was thought like maybe the model every time you generate a new sentence or a new caption, read the image more accurate.
That could be. My guess is that it actually doesn't, because I think it's trained once, this specific model, and then it just has some randomness in it, so that it puts out new stuff all the time. But there would be certain models that for sure they learn over time. But then we also need to give them like one thing, like uploading an image, but then there also needs to be some way of training it, like to make sure it improves. And I don't think that Glib kind of evolves right now over time. I could be wrong.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay, thanks so much for sharing. That's really lovely. We will leave these so you can like go back and look at them a bit later, and I will definitely do that. But I think now we're gonna quickly look at the last thing, and this will be not really an assignment, because I think it will also be fun if you have some time to explore a bit on your own, and we have some time to kind of like wrap up a discussion towards the end. So it will be a bit more of me just kind of saying that this is another technique you can also use. And this last technique is in assignment 3, which is about providing examples. So sometimes when you just like kind of ask for a text, then you don't really, sometimes you don't get the results you want. And of course you can try to like ask in a certain way, like improve the prompt. We looked a lot at that already. But oftentimes if you want something kind of specific, it helps if you add examples where you actually kind of teach the model with just a few examples that if I give you this kind of input, this prompt, then I would like this kind of output, this kind of generated text. So one example, which we can also try out in a second, is that let's say we want to generate a chatbot, and we want that chatbot to have a certain tone of voice. We want it to be super sarcastic. Then maybe we can like give it examples of, or sorry, we can like say that it should be sarcastic. But if we want to like more kind of in a more detailed way, we kind of show the model what we mean by being sarcastic, then we can give it examples of questions and answers where we show it how we want it to reply. And it will not be perfect, but sometimes it really improves the outputs quite a lot. So let's see it here. So you can click this link where you can see an example. And this is actually, it's not an example that I made, and it's an example that you can find if you also go to the documentation. I think that's where I found it. It could also be an example. So I think it's maybe both places. But here is like a instruction that we kind of know. We know these prompt instructions already. So we still need those. And here it says Marv is a chatbot that reluctantly answers questions with sarcastic responses. And then here are some examples of interactions. So if I write, like let's pretend that I am someone chatting with this chatbot Marv. Then if I write how many pounds are in a kilogram, then maybe Marv is like, I don't want to answer that again, but sure, there's so many pounds. Please don't ask me again. Or what does HTML stand for? Then Marv, this reluctant, kind of lazy, sarcastic chatbot, like kind of asks, why didn't you ask Google first? So these are some examples, and these are like, in a way, they really show the system what we mean. Instead of just describing, then we're kind of showing it with examples. So here, the way right now we have like a question from the user, what time is it? And then Marv, if we just hit submit, then Marv will answer that question. So let's hit submit and see what happens. So what time is it? It's time for you to stop asking me questions and get a life. So of course this is maybe like being a bit over the top, but it is like it has learned from all the previous examples, and that's a good way to steer it. So I think it would be fun if you maybe try this out, and you could also, like, instead of writing what time is it, you could write something else like how far does a car drive in its lifetime? Whatever, random question, and then you can write Marv, and then Marv will try to answer that. It depends on the car. Yeah. So I hope that makes sense. Like this idea of like trying to give it more examples, and it actually learns a lot from just a few examples. And one thing when we get a bit further is that like if we had more time, or actually give this to you as an assignment, but you can try it out yourself when you have a bit of free time in a short while. Like try to change both the instruction and also the examples for the chatbot to give it a different tone of voice. Like let's say you want to make it really sweet. Like what do you mean by sweet? Because if you just ask it to do something sweet, then sweet can mean lots of different things. But what if you make it kind of flirty and give it examples of something flirty? Or what if it's secretive or very melancholic? Giving examples gives it more context, and typically it makes it a bit better. And then if you have lots of data, and I mean, when I say lots of data, I mean like hundreds of thousands or maybe even millions of input-output pairs, then you can also fine-tune GPT-3, which is really, really nice. It improves the quality quite a lot if your data set is good. It lowers the latency, so it spits back stuff faster, and it's a bit cheaper to run once you train it. And you can see more on fine-tuning in this guide. I think actually now we will have a bit of time. I'm just going to change this real quick. So you'll have 10-12 minutes on your own to explore. So you can spend some more time doing some of the previous assignments, or like looking into this assignment 3 that we halfway skipped. You can also check out the GPT-3 documentation, or you can look at some additional examples, which I think are really, really good. You can also scroll down this page to see more on my work, and some of these examples you can also actually try out online in the browser. Not all of them, but some of them you can. And then I think it would be really, really nice if in 12 minutes we all meet back here, and we kind of see if anyone like explored something fun they want to share, or if anyone has any general questions, or if anyone has any fun ideas for something to build. Then we'll take that as the final thing, like an open discussion in 10 minutes. I hope that sounds okay. So now you have a bit of time to explore on your own. Maybe come up with some fun ideas, like art projects you want to build, or like books you want computers to write, or whatever. And then we'll gather here again in 10 minutes. Yeah. And I'll keep an eye on the chat. If anyone has any questions, feel free. But I'll begin by taking a bit of water, so I'll just be away for a few seconds. Okay, I think we should try to get back now, and I'm kind of interested in hearing if anyone explored anything interesting, or if anyone also tried something that didn't work. Maybe we can help each other if you ran into something that just like where it didn't work at all. So we can share some tips and tricks amongst us. And then also if anyone has any just like open questions or any kind of thoughts on this AI generated poems, like is it just like a fun little thing that we can try, or is it something that means something for poetry and society moving forward? Like all questions or comments or discussions are very welcome here in the last 10 minutes. You are also free to ask about like any kind of technical stuff or anything. So I think still it would be nice if you write maybe your name in the chat, and then you will be highlighted. Maybe while people think of something to ask or comment on, and I can share maybe some of the links that are also on the site. So after this, all the exercises, Then I have some GPT-3 specific links. I have one which is like, I don't know if it's good or bad. I'm a pretty bad coder, but I code a lot in my work. And here's like a very, very simple template for communicating between a website and GPT-3 that you can try. And it's important that if you do something with GPT-3, then because it's a thing that costs money, then don't leave your API key public on the internet. You need to hide your API key. I don't always hide it, but that's also because I typically do like site-specific installations, and then the API key is just on a computer, but not visible online. So that's the template. But then there are also a lot of like resources. I really love Janelle Shane. She wrote a book on like weird AI stuff, and she has this website called AI Weirdness. And there's a lot of stuff with GPT-3, so I really, really like that. But then there's also the OpenAI forum and some books and some websites with more guides and tutorials, and also some videos that are more technically detailed in terms of how these models kind of work. So that's it. And then further along, if you go down on the site, then there's some of my poetry artworks. So there are some questions now. And I'm really sorry if I mispronounce people's names. Soyun asked, I saw your work at Sonar Festival. Whether I used GPT-3 for that. Yes, I actually used GPT-3. And GPT-3 is my work at Sonar Festival was this phase 2 Wikipedia installation. And GPT-3 is really good at generating Wikipedia biographies because it has read the entire Wikipedia at some point. So it has read like so many Wikipedia articles. Oh, were other people at Sonar Festival? We should have met up. I was actually a bit ill, so I was at my hotel quite a lot. But I became more healthy towards the end. Then Jacob, how many languages can GPT-3 do? So that's a bit of a tricky question. I've done a thing in Danish actually. I made it generate poems in Danish. And Danish is a fairly small language. But it can write stuff in Danish. It doesn't do it half as good as it does in English, but it can do it. So I think I don't know. There's not like if it has read something from that language and read it enough times and it can distinguish it from other languages, then if you write an instruction in that language, it will typically put something back in that language, but it will not be as high quality as languages it has read more of. Then there's a question from Kalian. Have you experimented with other more obscure text generation NLP models? So I've done quite before. I did stuff with GPT-3. Then I've done quite a lot of stuff with this thing called Rita.js. Which is really nice, and it's not machine learning, but it's really good for a lot of simple tasks. So for instance, let's say you want to find words that rhyme with other words. Then I think you have some examples, like reference. So Rita.rhymes, and then you can find examples, and these are you can either use Rita in Java or JavaScript. So it works very nicely with processing and also P5.js, if people are familiar with that. And it's really nice. So for instance, you put in cat and then it gives you back words that rhyme with cat. I actually have one example of that all the way towards the bottom of my page. I have like this very silly example where it's a pretty bad machine learning model that tries to guess what it sees, and then it just spits out stuff that rhymes with that. So now it's just going to load, and then we'll see what it says in a second. Yeah, it's a bit slow on loading, but yeah, Rita.js, and I'll just give you a link to that. It's like really, really nice for a lot of stuff. Oops, Rita. Oh yeah. Yes. Okay, so now things I'm a seatbelt. Okay, let's see. Computer keyboard rhymes with reward. Yeah. It doesn't really understand this thing. Let's try the guitar. Oh, it doesn't understand. Oh no. Oh, but either way, yeah. You get the idea. Yeah. Seatbelt. Okay. Yeah. Tuquan writes, thanks for the workshop. I'm curious where you usually draw your inspiration from for such projects. So today was like me showing a lot of stuff that was around text. But I work with all sorts of mediums, and I do a lot of stuff with music as well, and also with images as output, and also sometimes like more interactive spatial stuff. And a lot of my inspiration comes from technology, actually. So in design school, I was taught that we should like get inspiration from people and from real problems, and then try to solve those, not be like too focused on tech itself. But I actually get a lot of inspiration from technology. So I get inspiration from new machine learning models that do certain things, and then I try to like take a model that does something and then combine it with a model that does something else. So for instance, this poems about things, what is it? It's GPT-3 that can write text and it can write poems. And then the image part is another model, in this case Blip, that describes images. And then when you have those two building blocks, then you put them together and then you generate poems based on images. And a lot of my stuff is just like simple input output with different models that I put together in kind of unconventional ways. Then Beck says, B-Shapes got it to write a short sci-fi story. Cool. Okay, maybe you want to share that, B-Shapes? That would be really fun. And then in the meantime, maybe while you get highlighted, B-Shapes, then Ify says, do you know some good resources to learn AI for art purposes? So I think maybe the Computational Mama and Sinem can also chat in on this in terms of good resources. So I guess it depends a bit on what type of stuff you're interested in. I have been really like a thing that I've been very liked a lot is ML5.js. If you do a bit of JavaScript coding, then I think ML5 is like a very nice machine learning library to do things in JavaScript. I have also previously been part of a project which is, I hope will get updated again soon, but we like try to make a lot of resources. It's called ML for A, machine learning for artists. So now it has, like we're trying to, or it's not me that much, it's mainly Gene Kogan, but trying to make machine learning more accessible for artistic purposes. You can also try that out. And I don't know, anyone else, feel free to share if you know good resources for learning AI for art purposes. And then B-Shape says, paste the story to the Google Doc at the bottom. So maybe we can look at that.
B-Shapes is already highlighted, so they can also share it themselves. Great, yeah.
Also, I can share my screen. Oh, it looks like you got it pulled up there now.
So would you like Andreas to go to the story, or?
Yeah, it looks like he's at it there. But I basically, I just started by telling it to just write an introduction to a story, and then that was what it came up with. And then I just kind of continued trying to like prompt it to continue the story in my response. And each time I just typed user, and then a semicolon, and then typed my response, and it just continued to iterate upon the story. Yeah, it was pretty cool getting to see what I came up with.
Nice, very nice. It's like it's like a dialogue story in a way.
Yeah. Yeah, I bet you could take it and probably synthesize it down into a more like simple version of the story. But yeah, right now it's like a dialogue back and forth. But yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Pablo asks what I think of Runway ML. So I've actually used Runway almost before it was open. So I know Chris a bit, and it was his final project when he studied at ITP. So for those of you who don't know, Runway used to be this platform for like artistic machine learning. Now it actually moved a bit away from that. So it's more on using machine learning to speed up video editing or do new video editing things that you couldn't do without machine learning. So I actually don't use Runway that much anymore when I teach, but I used it like a ton just like up until a year ago. But the experimental machine learning stuff, if we look away from like movie editing stuff, then it's actually not being developed that much anymore. I don't use it that much anymore, but it's really cool. It's a cool team, but they are a startup, and I don't know if this is being recorded. I shouldn't say a lot of things, but they are moving in a different direction, which I think makes sense financially. But yeah, I really love the stuff they did in the beginning. I don't use it that much. And then the computational mama also says that a good place to start is also teachable machine, and a fun little note maybe. I deleted that from my slides, but if you still, let me just see, yeah, you still see my screen, right? So I was part of making the first version of Teachable Machine, and it's my very tired face that's still on TensorFlow.js's website. So me and a guy called Lasse from Denmark, we were part of making the first version of Teachable Machine. And for those who do not know what I'm talking about or what Teachable Machine is, then Teachable Machine is this very, very easy website where you can teach a computer to recognize different things. And I have not played any part in the current version, which is really cool. You can export the models and use them in your own projects. I was only part of this first version from 2007 or 17, which you can still try out if you feel like it. Yeah.
I also would like to add, as I explained in the beginning of the event, we are preparing an AI playground guide created by Terina Rodriguez, and we will be having a lot of tools that we're sharing there as well. So please keep an eye on that, and again, please join our Slack to keep following about that.
Cool. And then Pablo also asks, what about Wikinator? So Wikinator is also, like, I'm a huge fan of Wikinator. I thought it was so cool, or it is still super cool. I'm not using it that much anymore, also because it hasn't been updated, I think, in at least 5 years or something like that, 4 or 5 years. So it's really good for, especially if you do physical computing or like connect to lots of like to software, like send signals from processing to Macs to Super Collider and back into the Arduino. It's super, super cool, but I don't use it that much because it's not being updated, and I personally moved a bit more towards web-based stuff. But it is very, very nice, and it played a big part in a lot of things I did some years ago. And I also taught it a lot. So if you have any questions, then ask me. I was a super user of Wikinator. I love it. And I also love Rebecca Fiebrink. I'm a big fan of Rebecca Fiebrink. And I once attended a class as a student that she taught. So she's a big inspiration to me. Cool.
Any other questions do we have?
I have one question. I just wanted to know what are the new tools that are exciting you and where you feel your practice specifically in terms of text with so much happening in AI and text, where do you feel it's going? Can you talk a little bit about it?
Yeah, so tools that excite me. I'm generally kind of very interested in Hugging Face as, in a way, both a tool but also as a platform for exploring models. And I haven't really, I think like I'm still a bit confused in terms of what Hugging Face is and what it isn't. But there's a lot of stuff you can do via Hugging Face, both on their site via their spaces, but you can also train stuff and host stuff via Hugging Face. And there's a lot of text-specific stuff there that I want to explore when I have more time. Then I'm obviously also very, very interested in like not necessarily always text as output, but also text as input. So I had access to DALL-E 2 now for a few weeks, and it's just amazing how good quality it actually provides. So just text also as input to control something else. I'm also kind of interested in like text to music. Like, could that be a thing? Yeah. So not always text as output, also text as input, and I think we'll see a lot more of that.
Thank you.
And then if he asks, what do you use to replace Weakinator? So for some things, there is no replacement, and if I needed to do certain things, I would still do Weakinator. But a lot of stuff I used ML5 or TensorFlow.js instead. ML5.js or TensorFlow.js. I use that instead.
Great. Are there any other questions or? If not, we can slowly wrap up. But before that, we would like to actually encourage everyone to turn their cameras and microphones on if they're willing to. Of course, to also meet each other, so we can also see everyone and meet and see new faces. Hi, Athanasios. I said it right this time. And we also wanted to ask, so as you know, we're trying something new. As you know, we're sharing these on our socials and highlights on our socials. So we thought it would be nice to ask the participants, what should we share as the highlight of today's workshop? So we're really curious, what was the best part? What did you enjoy the most? What were you most impressed with? Or what was the fun side to show to other people who didn't attend today? I really like, for example, if I can go, I really like the seagull poem.
Yeah, it was really nice.
If others also would like to say.
So should we just screen grab it and upload it on the Google Drive that you shared in the beginning?
Yeah, sure. If you, we're also going to take, I think, stuff because a lot of people added tags, social tags on the link Andreas shared. You can also take it from there. But if you're willing to share like exact screenshot on the Drive link we shared, we can also share those. Also, hi, Bishaves and Jacob. Turn cameras on recently. Anybody want to reflect on something? Say hi. Any?
Oh, sorry.
Yes, sure.
I really liked putting some code, or not putting code in, but asking the model to output code and then using that as a starting point to then start to play with, like, on your own. I want to experiment with that more on my own, but that was pretty cool getting to see that they can do something like that.
that's actually also a thing that I'm super interested in. And if you make something interesting, then please send it my way if you want to. I think I'm also gonna try to explore that a bit on my own. And I have an idea for like both like AI generated images from natural text, but then AI generated algorithms that generate images from natural text, and then also real programmers trying to do the same, and then comparing all of these three. I think that would be kind of fun. So yeah, maybe you want to collaborate on something along those lines. And the thing about that is also maybe like, because like if you want to do something in processing JS, then that's kind of specific. Then that's where fine tuning gets really good. Like if you can get a big data set of really nice processing code, then you can potentially make it become better at that type of programming output.
Yeah, you mean like having it output something and then you taking that code and refining it yourself to be like a better tool?
What I meant is more like looking at, let me just share that one more time, looking at specifically fine tuning inside GPT-3, which is, I'll send that link directly in the chat, where you like give it a lot of examples of inputs and outputs. And in this case, inputs would maybe be descriptions of what code, what some code does, and then outputs would be the actual code. So if you gave it tens of thousands of examples of processing code, then it would become really good at generating processing code based on descriptions of that code.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Great. Any other reflections? I'm seeing more and more faces.
I was really surprised about the change. Like, I asked it to do a poem in Spanish and actually did it. So it's like, okay, so it can do Spanish and English very well. Like okay, that I didn't expect that. That was surprising.
I can say something real quick. I was quite surprised at, or like what I really enjoyed just noticing throughout this workshop was just how much imagination it still requires from you when you're typing these prompts. Because if you just type in something super plain and basic, you just get something super plain and basic. And it's just like, yeah, and it's interesting to see this relationship between human creativity and just AI as a tool.
I really enjoyed when you were talking about your Phase 2 Wikipedia project, and when you mentioned how it encourages people to identify what's AI generated, because sometimes like you see that like in real life non-AI, like in terms of like fake news or like spam messages, and some people are more sensitive to that, and I think it's just a really good perspective.
Thanks so much. And yeah, I don't know if it's the right way to get that perspective, but it is important. It's important that we become good at being even more critical and finding, cues for stuff.
Do you know if anyone like is using these sort of AIs to like make fake news and all the, like putting information in the web that is not real, that most people will probably believe? Is there like they're doing that? Someone like a marketing?
I can't see why they. So I don't have specific examples. I also haven't researched it, but I can see why people, if people are interested in doing miscommunication or just like doing spam for commercial reasons, I can see why they wouldn't take advantage of this, because it is so extremely powerful and relatively simple. But again, it's not something I have researched, so I don't have an answer to the question.
Okay.
Then I maybe want to say, and I don't know if it doesn't have to be the last thing, but it was really fun being part of this. And yeah, I hope to tune in just as a participant for something. I haven't had the chance myself. I became a dad recently, so it's just like super busy, crazy life. But it seems like a very nice community. So I would love to just attend for something.
Thank you,
That
and it
sounds
was
great. Thank you
was
for
so
that.
wonderfully timed. Also, you
Yeah,
were,
it's great to keep the getting community bigger.
and wonderfully timed. Thank you,
And
Andreas.
thank you everyone
There was
again.
no
If
extra.
any other reflections, any last words, any highs, I'm working on this, please connect me. You know, we also do that sometimes. I also do this, so we can get aware of your work as well.
Yeah, so everyone is free to reach out to me. You saw some weird stuff I do, so I'm gonna share in some of my links once again.
Okay, then if no other words, we can close. Thank you everyone again for coming, and thank you Andreas for the great workshop. Hope to see everyone later in the next events. Please keep an eye on our socials and our website as well. Don't forget to join the Slack. Hope to see you all